All right, Rob Brown here with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Hard to believe it's already September the 10th, 2025. We got great panel today. Ronnie Sanders be on with us in just a moment. One of the best writers, true grit journalist around, Philip Marshall. Love this guy. Truth broker, I call him. I mean, the water's chaos. Philip walks in there and goes, everybody relax. And then he'll tell you what's going on. Coach Al Borges, man, my kids were all really young when you were at Auburn. Some of the best memories we ever had was 41 wins in 4 years when you were at Auburn. And Doug Dean will join us in just a minute from Birmingham. But Ronnie, man, you got great friends. I mean, you got great people.
Well, Coach Borges and I just met yesterday.
Okay.
Text message.
All right. Well, I know Coach Philip Marshall knows him very well.
I know him quite well, and some of the most fun times I had was covering Auburn when Al was there, and then trying to figure out why in the world he wasn't still there once he was gone. Yeah. And Al is he's an old school guy like me. Or an old guy, period, just however you want to put it. But it was a lot. Those days were fun, and it's a lot more fun than it is today, to be honest with you, because now everybody's paranoid and everybody's the accessibility we had then in ways to get to know people and become friends with people like Al Borges. You just don't really have much of that anymore, and I think that's unfortunate, going both ways, to be honest with
you. Yeah, it has. It's changed so much. I mean, in so many ways, mostly bad ways. I'd say. I think kind of is. I often say I probably got out of coaching at the right time, but when you have a job, I've had, and God knows I've had a bunch. You leave situation and you think, that was positive, or that was negative. That was, usually you mention a place that you coached right away. I don't like that place. You don't say that sometimes, but that's in your mind, But when I hear Auburn, instantly I think positive, right? I go, God, what a great experience that was. And I came in, they know who the hell I was. They thought I was weird. I think they still, even when after I was there a while, I thought I was weird. But we won a lot of games. And the one thing about the state of Alabama is you can befriend a lot of people when you can win a lot of football games, So the experience for me was second to none. And I've been lucky because I've coached at some big time places, but the Auburn is one that will be indelibly etched in my memory until they plant me.
Al, I remember when you came from Indiana, my friend Mark Green, and Philip, you knew Mark, he chronicled every play that you had called or ran when you were in Indiana. I'll never forget this. Mark was one of my best friends. He sadly died in March of 2010, but he said, Auburn, speaking of Auburn, because he worked with Mark Murphy and inside the Auburn Tigers, he said Auburn's going to win a ton of games with this guy immediately. That was true. I mean, 41 back in the 11-game schedule, 41 games in 4 years. I love your collection of shirts, man. Do you still have them?
Yeah, no, I do. Me and Rob Bravelant, God rest his soul. Rob was a big Hawaiian. He's the only guy in the South that I ever met that wore Hawaiian shirts, and he used to come in and we shop and compare. And he'd show one. I said, that sucks. I wouldn't wear that. and he'd look at mine and he wasn't as abrupt as I was. He'd say, that looks pretty good on you. I go, yeah, I got a lot of real estate body to cover. You know what I mean? And the Hawaiian shirts, you don't have to tuck them in. They're awesome. And it's funny. I left Auburn. I don't wear them very often anymore. But I am wearing my Auburn pullover. You guys can't see the logo.
There you go.
This I got in 2004. Okay, still have it. Wear it all the time. They really very durable. But it's my comfy clothes. When I come home and I want to throw something on, and first thing I do, I have a couple of them, so I've worn them out pretty good, and I wear them until they smell bad. Then I put them. So Yeah, but my Hawaiian shirts was made. I was making fashion statements on a daily basis with those.
Yeah.
Coach, what's the talk a little bit about coaching in the SEC and at Auburn versus coaching in the Big Ten in a place like Michigan?
Well, the X and O's, about the same. I mean, it's a better conference. It is. I would say SEC is the best conference, top to bottom in the country. Now they're catching up. Be clear on that. They are catching up. But in terms of better schemes, better this, better that, I don't see a discernible. I think they're all good. I think all the defensive coaches in particular do a fantastic job. Now, one thing about the SEC, more so I think than the Big Ten or the old Pac-12, because I did 7 years in that conference too, is Saban has a tremendous influence defensively on the SEC. So many people, when I was coaching and after that, when I came back as an analyst, have adopted so many of Nick's schemes or the core, concepts of their defensive deal, their coverage concepts with quarters, their coverage concepts with carry and cover three, the thing they developed way back with the Browns with Belichick and such. And everybody's kind of caught, not everybody, but a good portion of the conference has adopted that. So you see a lot of that. Where in the Big Ten, there's a little bit of Nick's influence there too, but it's not near as much as it is in the SEC from a defensive perspective.
Yeah.
You and I'll be bluntly honest here. I did not go back and look at all your every play you ran at Indiana when you came to Auburn. And in fact, I said, "Who?"
Well, you were the only one that Philip Helen did. I did. This. I got to tell you a story. I'm going to interrupt you, but you'll get a kick out of this. You more than anybody, I think. When I came to Auburn, I was like a babe in the woods. I didn't know nothing now, okay, in terms of what was around me. Now I had looked at the team a little bit. I knew they had a running back named Cadillac. I thought that was a cool name, But to say that I knew a lot about Auburn, and I didn't know who the hell Paul Finebaum was, with God as my witness. And he wasn't quite as big then as he is now. So Meredith Jenkins, our SID at the time, God rest her soul, the most wonderful girl, set me up with an interview with Paul Finebaum. But damn it, she didn't tell me anything about the guy. Okay. Well, I got on the interview, and he starts asking me questions like, why would they take some guy from Indiana with blah blah blah, citing statistics and going on and on? I go, who in the hell is this jerk? I just remember I went into Meredith and go, who's this guy? And he goes, oh, you don't know who Finebaum is? I go, I don't know who this guy is. I go, goodness gracious, what a turd. So,
okay, I lost you there for a minute or so.
But I got blindsided a little bit by Finebaum. Now, Finebaum turned out to be a great advocate for me. That was not, and I still go on his show occasionally to this day. But when I came in, boy, he beat me up pretty good. And you think you hadn't called a play yet. Usually they start yelling at you once you call plays. You're all fired up when you get there. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And everybody loves you, and then all of a sudden you run a play and they hate you, or run a couple plays and they hate you. It's just the nature of the job, But now, fortunately, that year they hate me too much because we had good players, man, and the things you called worked. So that part of it was good. But the one thing about coaching in the SEC is I found a place, and I said this at the time, that loved football as much as I do. I really love football. Now, the other places, they like it. But these guys were into it 24/7. You could turn the radio on in March, okay, even or before spring football. They're talking about football.
That still hasn't changed. That part of it has not changed.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. That's not the case. That's not the case everywhere else. The biggest question I get, guys, is rivalries, because I've been in the biggest. And I said, what's the biggest rivalry? Well, in terms of game week, ain't much difference between Ohio State, Michigan and Alabama Auburn. They are they are just vicious now, but because in Michigan you got the Tigers and you got Michigan State and you got Piss, you got a lot of different stuff. There are distractions away from those two teams. So, but in Alabama, it starts and stops with the Iron Bowl. So year round, I would say it's probably the rivalry's a little more intense, but there's not a hell of a lot of difference on game week or the build up to.
You brought up.
You never had to deal with losing that game, did you?
Never did, Philip. You know what Gus Malzahn said to me? This is great. I came back as an analyst, and we're getting ready to play Alabama. We're pretty good. We had a good team at 17.
Yeah,
and we beat Alabama. But we're getting ready. We're just talking about what we're going to do in this, that, whatever. And he looked over at me. He says, "How did you do against Alabama?" I said, "We never lost to Alabama. We were 4-0 when I was there, and I played them at UCLA my last year and beat them then." He says, "You 5-0 against Alabama?" I said, 5-0. And he says, "They ought to erect a statue to you." So I said, "Yeah, we've been lucky." Now, here's the deal. I'll tell you another story that's even funnier than that. Is when I was at Michigan, I had gone in with a record when I was a coordinator. We had played Saban at LSU and played Saban at Alabama, and I was 2-0. We had played Spurrier when I was at Auburn, and we were 2-0. Played Urban Meyer when I was when he was at Florida and I was Auburn. We were 2-0. So against those three coaches, I had a record of 6-0. Had never lost to those three legends. Okay, and I said, and that came out. I said, "God, you've never lost." I said, and in 1 year, 2012, we lost to Alabama the first game. We lost to Ohio State the last game, and we lost to Spurrier in a bowl game. And I said, "Boy, don't posture too much, because in one fell swoop, that ended." Okay, so, and you're not going to beat guys like that, I just been very fortunate. But I've just been so lucky to coach against some of the greatest minds in college football. And it was an incredible experience. But it brought the best in me as an offensive coordinator. It really did, because when you're going against guys like Nick and guys like Spurrier and whoever, you muster all the ingenuity. If you got any, I don't know if I got any, but all the ingenuity. I'm pulling plays out, guys, from 1987 when I was a coordinator, okay? Just one play that nobody's ever seen before back then, okay? For one game. Maybe I used to save a locker of plays for Ohio State, for Alabama, for USC when I was at UCLA. I'd save a little locker that we weren't going to run these plays all year. We might slip them in and practice them a little bit, but they were going to only be run against that team.
I went to Michigan when I went up there for several days before Alabama played them in the Orange Bowl in, I guess, 1990.
99. I think
that was Brady. That was Tom Brady. Yeah.
And I spent about 3 days up there, and it snowed the whole time. But I got there. The day I got there, I didn't have anything set up that day, and I was trying to think of what I could do. So I said, I wonder what Bo Schembechler's doing. So I called up the athletic department because I knew he had an office there. And I said, "Is Coach Schembechler available?" And they said, "Just a minute." And rang the phone. Next thing I hear is, "Hello." And it was Coach Schembechler. And I told him, I said, "Hey, I'd just like to come by and visit with you." He said, "Come on." I think he was glad to have the company. And I spent, I'd say, well over an hour visiting with him and just listening to him tell stories.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It was one of the best interviews I ever had.
What a great human being. What a tough sucker, man. He was the epitome of toughness to me, mentally and physically. He was, and I didn't really know him. I met Bo when I went to the Broyles Award in '97. Okay.
Right.
I was finalist for the Broyles Award when I was at UCLA. I went in 97, and he was there. Tom Osborne was there. Bill McPherson was there. And obviously Frank Broyles. And I did, I went up to him, he goes, "Hey, Bo Schembechler, how you doing?" He gives you that firm handshake and looks you in the eye. And I say, "Coach," I go, I appreciate you voting for me. To be honest with you, I didn't even know you even knew who the hell I was. He goes, "Oh, no, you're a California guy. You're not a surfer, are you?" No, I'm not a surfer. He had an image, because all those Rose Bowls, they went out there in the West Coast. But what did he?
Yeah, he told me because they had played in 1983. They played Auburn in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Auburn kicked a field goal in the like in the last seconds, not the very last play, but the last seconds to win the game 9-7. And he told me, he said, "Well, that was the best of all the bowl games.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best game of all of them because that was his kind of game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just knocking each other in the dirt or to the artificial turf, I guess, the whole game. I mean, it was just a brutal game, and
just grinding that ball, And I like Auburn back then, right? I mean, Bo used to say, now you guys probably don't remember this, or some of you old guys do. We had 16 millimeter film back then, right? Okay, some of you guys, but the film, how many snaps you went, you could tell by looking at the film. If the film was really, really a lot of film on the reel, you ran a lot of snaps, right?
Right.
And the defense's film was about that a little bit. So Bo used to say, "I want that real thick as could be, man. I want to run the place. I want the offensive film study after the game to take a lot longer than the defensive film study." So he was into ball control. Nobody, seldom, very few people did it as well as they did. They had a plan. They believed in their coach. It wasn't my style of football, though. I love running the football. Don't get me wrong. But they were not what I would call, till later on, they were not really a balanced team. They were a hit.
Auburn was a Wishbone team at that point.
Wishbone, there you go. See, Coach Dye was but Coach Dye expanded his horizons a little bit too later on, But
but I remember when you got there, it may have been the first time I ever talked to you. You told me, you said, "Well, you had gone out and watched Auburn's players in the off-season workouts."
Mm-hmm.
And you said, "I believe they got as good of players here as I've had." And sure enough, that was the 2004 team was one of them, in my opinion. I know they won it all in 2010 and all that, but I'm not sure the 2014 wasn't the best Auburn team I've seen.
Phil, there was no place on our team week. Now, obviously, some positions, but to think you were going to pick on somebody, and we had not become NFL players, college players. Like Danny Lynn played another snap after Auburn, but as a college football player, was extremely reliable and could play a lot of different positions, So we just had a group of guys, and I remember the conversation we had. When I interviewed for the job, I had winter workouts with Indiana that morning, okay, and I jumped on an airplane, flew to Auburn, and had winter workouts with Auburn, just as our interviewee,
right,
the next day. And I walked out to practice, and I go, "Oh my God, I've been coaching the JVs. These guys are unbelievable. They got a 6'5" quarterback that can throw the ball through a wall. They got two tailbacks. One looks like a fullback and can catch a BB in the dark. Had the best hands I've ever seen in my life. And another one who is tough, strong, explosive with Cadillac. And the thing that shocked me more than anything was the receivers, because the receivers before I got there weren't featured that much. And people weren't saying, "Oh, they got a good receiver here. They got a good receiver." When I saw the receivers, I said, "We got something going here now, because we got a quarterback and get him the ball, two halfbacks that both have rushed for 1,000 yards before, and a quarterback that the sky's the limit. It was just a matter of trying to get him confident. And our offensive line was excellent. We had Marcus McNeil, who played in the NFL for a while, and Ben Grubb, excellent offensive guard. We had Troy Reddick, played right guard, and Danny could play center. We had converted Jeremy Engel to center, who had been playing defense, did an excellent job. But just the talent level, there's nowhere you could only screw it up. You know what I mean? That was my deal. I don't want to screw this up. You know, I'd like to keep this job a while. So,
Doug Dean, jump in here with Coach Al Borges. Coach, by the way, thank you so much for taking time to share with us. This, I'm going to go back and watch this and just take a lot of notes. And Coach Schembechler, that was a hell of a man.
Oh God, as good as it gets. You want your son to play for him now? I'm just telling you.
It's great to be with you. Maybe Philip will rejoin us. The legend Philip Marshall. Al, you're looking good, brother. Hey, my good friend Devin Aromashadu, took me a while to learn to pronounce that. I know he wouldn't mind me saying, you still should have thrown the ball to him more, Al.
Oh, they all can. You never throw it to him enough. You know how they are.
Yeah, I know.
But I tell you what, he was an explosive sucker. He was amazing. He was a guy that could blow the top off the coverage and did several times for us, any play. So, he was really a factor.
He understands. My goodness, what a high class problem to have. Do you run the ball or throw with the talent you had on that offense? Unbelievable. And I think Philip has a point. It's very difficult, unanswerable to say 2004 Auburn versus 2010 Auburn. I think if they play 10, one of the two would win 6 or 6.5 games, but I don't know which of the two that would be. Because they both had some definite assets to deploy. Hey, if you haven't seen it, Al, I would, in your leisure, I think you can pull it up on YouTube. SEC Network had a show called Wishbone, and your comment about going back more than a decade or two to dig into the bag of the playbook for big games like the Iron Bowl made me think, and this will sound kind of absurd until you examine it more closely. But if you look at the nuances of blocking schemes and the quarterback being able to read and do that mesh, you see elements of that now.
Absolutely.
But it could be, am I onto something that some of the nuances of what made the Wishbone so impossible to defend against the better offenses that knew how to run it and really worked at it? It's like it's going to the grave with some of those coaches. Am I right?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, see, what happened to the Wishbone, nobody ever really stopped it. Let's be clear, okay? Nobody ever really stopped the Wishbone.
Yeah.
Recruiting stopped the Wishbone, okay?
It didn't prepare quarterbacks for the NFL,
in places
right?
Other than academies. Yeah. The academies kept it because they were recruiting a certain kind of kid that wasn't going to play pro football anyway, right? Or very, very, very few were. So they would stick with it, and it created hell for anybody they played because the preparation was so difficult. I was lucky. I started and cut my teeth in high school running the Wishbone. Mike Welsh was the coach at Slade High School, and he knew how to run it now. This is 1975. He knew how to run the Wishbone. He knew all the concepts of the triple. He knew how to run the load option, the counter option, the passes off it. So I had a great upbringing in football. I learned rushing the football in the Wishbone. And to this day, I think I could go out and coach a Wishbone. I really do. But what happened is kids did not see themselves as NFL players, not just quarterbacks, but other positions too. Although a lot of them went to the NFL, but quarterbacks definitely. I think Rutledge is the only one I can remember ever running that offense. And I don't know how much the Wishbone he ran, but recruiting killed it more than anything. But it certainly wasn't defenses.
Doug, you talked about 2010 and 2004.
Yeah.
To me, now I'm not one that says the 2010 team was a one-man team. I don't. Right. I never viewed it that way. I mean, Nick Fairley was pretty good. Darvin Adams was pretty good. Michael Dyer was pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of
T-Zac.
Yeah, and there was 27 seniors on that team. But the 2004 team, to me, was the most complete and most dominant. I mean, the 2010 team played close games week in and week out. The 2004 team didn't have many close games.
No,
you're right.
After y'all beat LSU, after that, there just weren't any games. I mean, Alabama was ahead 6-0 I guess it was at halftime, but I don't think anybody sitting there watching that game and knowing the two teams thought that Alabama was going to win that game, even when it was 6-0 at the half.
That promise you we didn't, because Philip, when we went, I wrote this in my book. We went in the halftime of that game, there was no panic. There was like, all right, screwed up job in the first half with some play calls, and we just did not play like we've been playing. But it was like nothing was wrong. I said, these guys got it. Yeah, get them playing fast. You know, don't time. Go out there and play, and literally turned around. So
Al Borges' book.
Absolutely. Worth a read. Worth a read. You know, Philip, Doug Dean again, I think if you make me pick as an Auburn man, I kind of wince at having to declare one, but just for grins, I think you make a strong case, Philip, that 2004 team had, first of all, they had a serious lockdown cornerback in Carlos Rogers, and you can do a lot with that defensively. And then they just had very few holes where the coaching and scheming had to cover it up, had to, put Band-Aids around it so that it didn't cost you a win. And they both went undefeated. It makes for a very fun analysis and looking back. And I've had people tell me, which I tend to agree with, that the 2010 team, and you said it, they brought back their own share of seniors, especially O-line, but they had the single best player, most impactful player on defense, and the single most impactful player on offense, Cam Newton.
No doubt about it.
You can do a lot with that.
Yep.
Nick Fairley was one of the few players I've watched that and he'd probably get called for a lot of targeting penalties now, but the quarterbacks were literally, quarterbacks were literally, you could tell they were afraid of him. Yeah. I mean, they were really afraid of him. And
especially Aaron Murray. Murray still won't shut up about it.
But what was funny about that, and Georgia people will say forever that he's a dirty player and all that stuff. But I went back and looked through every game that season. And you know how many personal fouls Nick Fairley was called for in 2004? Two. Yeah. Two in 13 games. Now, like I said, some of those will be targeting now. But,
hey, that tells me the referees were scared too, right?
Yeah. But that team, the 2004 team, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here, Al, but I think getting Al and his offense and the imagination of his offense and all those things took what was going to be a really good team and made it a great team.
I appreciate that.
No doubt.
I really believed it. I believed it at the time. I believe it now. And maybe I shouldn't bring this up, Al, but one of the strangest decisions I've ever seen was came in 2007. And when Al left or was asked to leave or whatever you want to call it, and because the 2008 team had double-digit leads 4 times and lost. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that would have happened if Al Borges had still been prowling the sideline. And
I appreciate that, Philip. I think, and I don't relive that too much. I kind of put that in the rearview mirror. But I think, and this is the first time I think I've ever said this on the air, but I think the head coach saw the offense needed to go another direction because of the spread, and felt like that was the wave of the future, and that they needed to do that. And we were not as productive that year as we were in previous years. And I'm the first one to tell you, but that's the nature of offensive football. There's always going to be ebb and flow. Some years you're way up, some years you're not as good. But can your offense still be productive and play to the strengths of the defense? Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you can do it all on your own. But can you keep winning? That's the key. Can you keep winning? And I think that should determine whether you keep your job or not. Now, if you completely go in the tank, that's something else altogether. I don't do that. I'm no virgin to this job. I know how that stuff can be. But I think there was a theme, a reason. It was not a good decision, obviously, but there was a reason. You know what I mean? There was a reason. So,
Al, I know I'm assuming that you haven't had important reason to do a lot of film study on this Hugh Freeze offense. So I'll ask my question in kind of general terms, and it should be applicable to what Hugh's doing. But you hear the Hugh, let's call him the offensive coordinator for now. It's the truth. It might be a little different than that, but Hugh is very involved in play calling. That's no news to anyone. But he talks about the importance of when you've got this RPO offense, you've got a pretty solid running game that you deploy to take what the defense is giving you. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that, and the idea being attack where they are not, right? When you've got all these quadrants and open space in the field. But the only thing I wonder about, when your best talent, arguably, especially with injuries at running back lately with Auburn, is your wide receiver room. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm going to, knowing that he wants to take what we give him, I'm going to try to give you 4 yards on the ground as every play, hoping you'll bite on that. And yeah, you'll move the chains, but you'll shorten the game. And maybe I've got a better chance if I'm South Alabama or even Oklahoma, who they'll definitely be favored over Auburn. But is there a way to deploy where even though you want us to run the ball, we're going to throw it anyway, see if you're good enough to stop it? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, my philosophy. Now I've studied Auburn a little bit. Let's start with that foundation, okay? Auburn is a zone, duo, power read, counter team. That's what they do, and built off those plays are their run pass options, okay? And they have various ways to run pass options. I think one of the keys this year so far in studying them is the quarterback has a much better feel for when to use those options. Peyton Thorne came from an offense was more like we did when I was at Auburn, is they were a run play action team. They were not a big RPO team. So as soon as he came here, he was kind of learning a new language, okay, and somewhat on the run. And I never really felt, as I watched it, that he fit what they did real well. Although he had some skills, he could run, he had some speed, he could do some things. But then I watch Jackson Arnold, and he looks like he fits like a glove, okay? He understands it. He realizes when's the ball got to go out there, when is there an extra one in the box, when is there not, when should we run it? If everything turns to crap, I can take off and run. He did that in the first game against Baylor on an RPO, I might add, and turned it into a big play. Ran for 3 first downs, I believe, on first down, just on the first half. On third down, ran for first downs to keep the chains moving, and made a brilliant throw down the seam early. He just does some stuff that makes me believe that he's much more comfortable in their style, okay? Okay, now let's get back to the question. The question is this: how much do you want RPO? Now, I'm a guy that I like RPOs. It's the greatest cheat in football. It's, to me, completely illegal, but they let you do it. So you gotta do it, okay? Let me tell you something. When I started coaching, if they let linemen do what they're doing now on pass plays, there'd be 5 flags, hit them in the head, okay? There is no way they would allow these guys to be 3 yards down the field. They won't let you, unless you got in contact with somebody, they wouldn't let you put 1 yard down the field. But somehow, somebody persuaded somebody that they would allow people to be downfield on pass plays, as long as it wasn't ridiculous. Well, to me, it kind of is. So, but my point is I'm a believer that you use RPOs, you don't abuse RPOs, okay? Because you could run those, and it's so intoxicating for the play caller because you seldom make a bad call. If it screws up, you just blame the quarterback. I mean, you say, okay,
which we saw last year.
Wasn't the box loaded? Well, no, the apex player was a little bit in here, a little bit. I've heard all these conversations. You just, it makes it so easy. Well, there's a time I want that out of the quarterback's hands. I want to control whether that ball is run or passed, okay? And then there's other times when we're getting crowded and the safeties are creeping 1 foot closer every time we hand the ball off. Then I say, okay, all right, here's your guidelines for exercising that option, okay? Yeah. And let it rip. But I believe you can RPO your brains out sometimes. You RPO yourself right into some bad situations. But to saying that said, in RPOs, I've had some RPOs that won games. So it's not, But I think there's a happy medium. I think there's a time I just want to call play action pass, pull a defense up, throw a layered route, take one over the top. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm controlling the run pass, the run pass ratio, rather than the quarterback controlling the run pass ratio. In the old days, the quarterbacks called the plays. I know Philip remembers this. I know I remember this. Some of you other guys probably don't. But the quarterbacks call all the plays. Remember?
I do.
Well, at some time, Tom Landry started doing it, I think, or Chuck Noll or somebody, and they said, let's take this out of this guy's hands, man. It's too much, right? It's too much. So they took it away from the quarterback. That really pissed off Roger Staubach. I just want you to know that. But eventually they said, okay, so we're going to take everything. Well, now they're kind of making a comeback. No, the quarterbacks don't call the plays, but they kind of do. They kind of do, because now they've got built-in play action passes in the run game, if you know what I'm saying, okay? So they can pull that ball out almost indiscriminately. They might get their butts chewed, but they make indiscriminately and turn what you wanted to be a run into a pass. You only wanted that ball thrown if, in fact, they loaded the box. And sometimes it's a little gray. It's a little gray. It's not quite as definitive as some coaches want to make you think, okay? Yeah. So my point is that's the way the game's gone. The quarterbacks are, I won't say calling the plays, but dictating a lot of what gets called, okay, or what actually happens on the snap of the ball.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Now, you mentioned Peyton Thorne, and he told me, not just me, he's probably at a mass interview, but his first year that he had never run RPOs.
Yeah, they didn't do it at Michigan State.
It's not anything he had ever done,
No.
and I think. I mean, if you look at the numbers, his second year was pretty good statistically, and but I'm not sure he ever got totally comfortable with it, and he took a lot of grief as will happen. Mm-hmm. Your guy Jason Campbell took a lot of grief for 2 or 3 years, and but I think he was better than he was given credit for. But I don't think he was necessarily a really good fit. He wasn't their first choice when they were looking for a quarterback. I know that. And I think he got more comfortable with it his second year, but I don't think he was ever completely comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And you're right to me about Jackson Arnold. He looks completely comfortable with it. And it helps when you're an elite runner like he is. Mm-hmm. And but he looks like it's interesting what he did. He was invited to the Manning quarterback academy, and he declined because he said he felt like it was more important for him to stay at Auburn and get work with his receivers and get to know his receivers, which I thought was said a lot about him. And he, to me, he is a really good fit for what he likes to do.
Yeah, I think it is, Phil. I think he is. He brings. He looks like he could structurally hit what they want to do with the RP game. Okay, but he also gives you that what I call that third play dimension, where when everything turns to crap, he's able to improv and manufacture offense that you don't draw on the board.
Yeah, like he said they didn't call but one quarterback run in the game, of course, the last game, which was obviously a mismatch. But
you're talking about no, they didn't call any in the last game. You're talking about
yeah, but he said they didn't call but one quarterback run. Well, that kind of reminds me of when Cam Newton was here when they played those kinds of games. He didn't run the ball either.
He run the ball,
and or hit a rush for 2,000 yards if he had. But and Doug, that's the thing you said about that team. And if you say who would win the 2004 between the 2004 and 2010 team, all I can say is the first time I ever saw Cam Newton lose was in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, I know. It makes it hard to bet on that one.
It does. And, I'd rather compare the 2004 Auburn Tigers to the 2004 USC Trojans. Because everyone, I'm from the West Coast. I was originally a Pac-10 coach, right? I mean, I know all about that stuff. But and a lot of people say, "Well, they lost to SC the year before." Blah blah. Well,
what's that got to do with anything?
Yeah,
not doing nothing.
Exactly.
But for everything they had we were as good as or better. They had Reggie Bush. We had Cadillac Williams. They had who was it? Wright, Lindell White. We had Ronnie Brown, who's better than Lindell White. I go to my grave believing that. Okay. They had Matt Leinart, who won the Heisman Trophy. We had Jason Campbell, who averaged more yards per attempt, higher completion percentage, and won just as many games. And he played in the NFL a lot longer than Matt Leinart did. Okay.
Yeah.
And the one thing too is the wide receivers. They had Mike Williams. We had Devin Aromashadu. We had Ben Abamanu. We had guys.
Courtney Taylor.
Courtney Taylor. They couldn't trump us with anything. Now in the offensive line, they didn't have anybody as good as Marcus McNeil. I'm just telling you, they had a pretty good offensive line. They didn't have anybody as good as Marcus McNeil.
We all respect Pete Carroll and what they can do, but what irritates me, and we're all just speculating because the two teams sadly didn't get to face each other, but people conveniently, because of that washout of Oklahoma, and games go that way, they get away from you. But I think that was an overrated. I don't blame Oklahoma for being ranked second and staying there. They just did what they had to do. But people forget 3 or 4 games USC had regular season that were nail biters. The biggest nail biter being the rivalry game against UCLA, which UCLA almost had won. And I think it was a less than one score victory for the Trojans. But Auburn that year, as Phillips has pointed out, didn't play 1 or 2, really games in contention, including just blowing Georgia out of Jordan-Hare Stadium, which was a beautiful. And Al, we still love you for calling that halfback pass, and I know Cadillac loves you too.
Anthony Mix, man, gotta remember that.
You got to know the story behind that one too. I put this one in my book. I don't know if you guys have read it now, but I had that pass in all year. Okay, it was in all year. I think we probably put it in during fall camp. I don't even remember.
God.
But Cadillac would throw it so lousy. I mean, it went out end over end, and I just couldn't get up the gumption to make the call in the game. And he kept bugging me. He goes, Coach, I tell you, just call it. I'll get it there. I'll get it there. That's it. I go, you throw like crap. But I don't want to put somebody else in there because they won't sell it as good. They know if we pitch it to Cadillac, everybody's going to come running up, right? He goes, you just call it, and I'll get it there. So I said, we got all the way to the Georgia game. I'm the second last game of the season. I said, I'm going to call this play. But before I call this play, I'm going to run a sweep so they can see it. So we're going to toss it to them. And the play before, to set the play up, I said, okay, the ball's on the right hash. I don't want him to have to run to the left and throw back. I wanted him to be running towards his arm side so it would be an easy throw, okay? So I called a toss play to the left, which gained, I don't know, minimal damage, maybe a couple yards. But you could tell when we pitched it to him, it was a team meeting over on the ball. So I said, now's the time. Now's the time. Call the play and hold your jock, okay? So he pitched it to him. And on the play, Mix is supposed to kind of sort his way through. It's supposed to look just like the crack sweep, but he has to sort his way through to sell himself as a blocker and then slip the coverage at the last second once they come storming up. Cadillac's guy told him, I said, take the ball and make sure you run with the ball under your arm for 5 good steps. But as you do it, know that you have your passing grip on it, okay? That's so that you can pull it out and throw it fast. And if that son of a bitch isn't ridiculously open, just take off with the ball, okay? That's what I told him. And sure as hell, man. I mean, just like you called it. He got the ball. He did just what I told him to do. They came blowing up, and Mix was all by himself. And he threw a strike.
Perfect pass.
Okay. So then he told me after the game, I go, Lack, that was awesome. He goes, Coach, he goes, I'm going to tell you something. I go, what's that? He goes, I was throwing that ball no matter what.
That's beautiful. Only Cadillac.
Yeah.
Only Cadillac. Yeah. Hey, Coach Borges, have you noticed these analytics the computers have taken over, these OCs and coaches going on a bunch of 4th downs? Would you be doing that, Coach? I know it's down in distance and field position. What do you think about that?
It depends on your team. Now, see, these analytics take a lot of it take a broad scope of football by a lot of teams and say, percentage-wise, if you go for it on 4th down and 3 inside the 50-yard line, you're going to get it. Well, not if you're podunk you're not. Okay, that you got to. It's not the X's and O's. It's not the analytics. It's the Jimmies and Joes. If you've got a team you think can get those 3 yards, analytics look pretty smart. But this isn't about that. Okay, it's another thing. Use it, don't abuse it. I use analytics constantly, but I didn't live by analytics. This game's too much about people, and analytics do not address your personnel and how they match up with their personnel, because that's the game, guys. That's the game. That's why Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali provided you incredible entertainment for a boxing match. That matchup was perfect. A guy that could do this and the other guy that would bowl in, and it's a great matchup. But if you don't match well, some of these things are just, to me, a lot of talk to make people sound smarter. That's what they are. So,
I always think about that. I think, okay, 4th and 1, analytics say go for it. But if you can't block that nose guard, it doesn't matter.
You can take your analytics and shove it.
The flip side of it, we've also seen in certain spots, I can see it on the body language of the defensive front and linebackers. If a team, you stop them on 3rd down and it's 4th and 1 or 2, and they go, and the defense is so deflated because you got to stop them 4 down. So it's a case by case judgment call. You agree, Al?
And no question. There is no question. And what's the game dynamic at the time? Who's feeling their oats? Who's playing better? Are you controlling the line of scrimmage? Are they controlling the line of scrimmage? What is the likelihood that they're going to give you a defense that's difficult to deal with your short yardage package or whatever it is? How good are they on 3rd down? Okay, it doesn't go by a blanket analytical statistic that everybody says you should do. I mean, to me, that's just not thinking right. This is a game played by human beings, not by some computer. You can use the computer to help you make decisions, but they should never make your decisions. I'd
love to see the data on this, but it feels like some of the games I've watched, these 4th downs, 4th and short, and I said Baylor went on 4th and 9 and burned Auburn, but it feels like they are creating an above average number of explosive plays for the offense, because the defense is just naturally going to think our task is to load the box and stop them from getting a 1-yard gain, and it leaves the back end wide open sometimes.
Yeah, you can roll the dice. We did it. I call plays assuming that. I didn't necessarily use analytics to do that, though. A lot of time that was very much field, or film study. We look at film study. Hey, anytime we compact the formation and the safeties are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage on 3rd and short, we'll pull the ball out every so often. We'll pull the ball out and try and throw the ball behind them. We're not going to do it every time. We're going to do it enough where people can't just indiscriminately come blowing into the line of scrimmage to stop your short yardage run.
Ronnie, jump in here. You've been listening for a while.
Yeah, I'll jump back to earlier in the conversation. You brought up Finebaum earlier. I'll tell you a story. Nick Saban had a similar experience. We're at LSU, and Paul had asked me to get him on, and so I asked him. I said, "Hey," and so Jimbo Fisher and Rick Trickett and Pete Jenkins and I were all on that Auburn staff together, and they had all been telling him what Finebaum was about. And I told Nick, I said, "Hey, you're new here. You ought to go on." And he said, "Well, Jimbo and Trick and Pete say I shouldn't go on." I said, "Well, he knows me," and I said, "He won't rip you." And he said, "Well, I'll go on, but if he rips me, I'm gonna rip your ass."
Well, I kind of ripped Meredith, for she told me. I didn't rip her, but I told her, "Why didn't she tell me about this guy?" They just kind of assumed I knew, I guess. But,
Well, everybody says they don't watch the show. What's the old saying? They're all lying. There's the people that watch it and the ones that say they don't. But I remember that 04. I like what Philip said about 04 versus 10. 10 had 24 seniors. And, Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, comes on our Monday morning show, Sidelines. He talks about in charting. He's a numbers guy. He's not X's and O's. He said, there is no team I've ever seen that's had a quarterback who elevated the talent around him to the level that Cam Newton did. He goes, he's an absolute freak. That was a 7-8 win team in all likelihood. They win 14. We all witnessed it. A lot of close games. You're going to have a lot of close games. The question I got to ask after listening and watching this roundtable is, why the hell are you not still coaching? You are as sharp as I have ever heard, seen. You are, I mean, this is just, I hope young coaches are watching this and listening, but I'd hire you right now and start you at 2.9 with a $500,000 bonus.
Where do I sign?
or Al, failing that, Al, failing that, at least be the owner of 200 hot dog franchises, right?
There you go.
I mean, but this is great.
This is the deal, okay, on that. And it is, I promised myself that I would never let the game pass me by. Yeah. And that's been some adjustment now, because I cut my teeth in West Coast offense, which, nobody runs that in college anymore. It used to, it was big in the pro, still big pieces of West Coast offense in pro football. But I said when the game changed, I was going to learn RPOs and spread offense and read options, which I never did. I never did it. That was complete foreign concept. And when I retired in 2018. I started doing these podcasts with Sam Webb and WTKA for Michigan. Now, unlike Auburn, the fan base at Michigan is not near as crazy about me as the fan base at Auburn. But you know what it's done is they have gotten to know me and know how hard I work at learning the game, and staying on top of the game. And it's really brought me back to the fans, and I've just loved every second of it. But it's been a lot of work now. I mean, we every week would draw X's and O's of several plays, detail each play, go through each one, and I'm talking everybody. Line play, I some guys just draw. I see these guys etch a sketch diagrams when they show plays. I didn't do that. I showed how the line was protecting, with the course of the backs, where the checkdowns were, where the read progression was, everything that was involved in the play. And I show them the defensive reaction to the play. Okay, they're in quarters. This guy's reading two, doing this, and then I draw the XA. So you pick about, 6 or 7 plays, which takes a long time to diagram when you're diagramming all that, and detail it. And they really appreciated it. Now, I told the guys working with, I said, do we need to dumb this down a little bit? He goes, no, this is what makes the show different. It's what makes the show different. Just keep doing it. As a matter of fact, get more complicated. Hell, we're getting 10,000, 14,000 views sometimes from people that you would never think even know half the stuff I'm talking about. But it's kept me on top of football. I get copies. I can watch every single football game in the country on a coach's copy every single week. I can go to a 1AA game or an FCS game, whatever you call it, and watch Cornell play Harvard. I can watch it. So I can study any team I want, anytime I want. That's what I did before I came on this podcast, is I watched Michigan play, particularly Baylor, and I watched about a half of the other game, which was kind of a bad matchup. So I try to stick with the games that'll tell you more about how good the team is, So I stayed on top of it, and I still talk to the coaches. Chip Lindsey's now at Michigan, and I talk to Chip constantly, and so it's never going to escape me. I'm not going to let it until my brain goes and I just can't take it anymore. I don't understand it anymore because my brain's not functioning right. But I'm a connoisseur and I love it. I did when I coached and I still do.
Al, so many plays. Go ahead, Ronnie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now, did when you were coaching, did you have a set number of plays that you wanted to get to? Like when we were at Florida, Fedora wanted to get 85 plays. Did you have a set number, or was it simply about controlling the game? I mean, what?
Couldn't care less how many plays.
Could care less.
There's too many ways to win. I've won games running 52 plays. I've lost games running 90. And to me, and because we're not a tempo team, although we have that was equipment for our offense, we could do some of that and would do that at times. I had no interest in how many plays it took to win the game, as long as we won the game. Because here's the thing, Ronnie, is when you get in the game, it's like the battlefield. Okay, stuff's changing all the time. So if you can't, and I learned this from Bill Walsh way back when, you better have an offense that can situationally address anything that comes up during a football game. Anything. whether it's 4-minute drill and you got to run the football and you're not particularly good running team, but you better have a plan for that situation. 2-minute drill, where now 2-minute drill before the half, 2-minute drill before the game, 2-minute drill when you need a field goal, 2-minute drill when you need a touchdown. What are you going to call when it's 3rd down and goal to go from the 8-yard line? And this play means touchdown, just like you saw in 1988 Super Bowl when John Taylor caught that ball. That play was practiced all year, never run once until that time. Wow. You better have a plan for all of it. So, and Bill used to always say, you can't be a purist. You can't say, well, I'm an up-tempo guy. We got to run 80 plays a game. Because it may not, to win the game, you may not need to run 80 plays a game. You may need to back off the accelerator and run less plays a game. Yeah. So, no, I didn't have, something I never had too. I never had goal boards where, we got to have 250 yards rushing, got to have 250 yards passing, 150 yards, zero. I won goal.
Win the game.
Win.
Yeah.
and that's all. But I'm one of the few guys who do that because every facility I go to the offense will be, here's the goal boards up there. And then they put little footballs by if they've accomplished the goal and all that. And some of them don't even have win in the goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
We got about 3 minutes left, so we'll wrap it up. But this is, I'm going to go back and watch this probably 3 times. And also, how did we get your book?
Just Amazon. Easy.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can get on Amazon.
Al, so many.
That guy in the middle is me.
Pimp that book, Philip. Al, good Auburn people and people who just love college football and all the drama and big moments, probably each have their own. What's your favorite Auburn play that Al Borges was heavily involved in? And mine there's a bunch of them, and you have to look at 2004 season for obvious reasons, but mine might surprise the viewers. And it was, I guess, otherwise a little bit of an obscure play, except the Iron Bowl is never obscure. It's always big. But it was 2007, and a guy that no one had ever heard of named Nick Saban was coaching on the other side of the field. Obviously, they had heard a lot about Saban. And Auburn gets it's a 17-10 game, and you do not want to have to give Alabama the ball back late. And it's 4th and 1 out at the Alabama 30. And you and Tubbs brought the whole offense.
The whole offense over, yeah.
Over the sideline. And I guess it was you that said, we're going on this one. We're going on 4th. We're going to run the damn ball. And if you're not good, let me let you take it from there. But the stories I got it is that, hey, you want to win the game, you got to be man enough to get 1 yard. Tell us about that play out.
Well, there's a timeout called. And Tommy says, we're going for it. I don't want him getting the ball back. Okay. And I said, we're going to run 32 tub, which is the basically base inside zone to the back. Downhill, call it a million times. They know it like the back of their hand. But when I said, I call them all, get them all over here on the sideline. And then I kind of pull them over close to where the chains were, okay? So they could see where the ball was and compare how much. I said, everybody look at this. And they're all kind of leaning over looking at it. Everybody look at this. You see that right there? You got that? And I won't say the word. Well, maybe I will. That effing far to go eat those sandwiches. That far. And they looked at it and they came off like gangbusters. Brad Lester took the ball and shoved it right up the ball. I mean, I said,
he drug like 8 tacklers with him.
Win the game.
12-yard run by Brad Lester
with that much to go and everybody in the box.
That was beautiful.
I mean, I don't give too many new Rockneys. Okay, that's not really my deal. But this was a time for a new Rockney, and for them to actually see how close they were to beating them and how much it means to them to win the game.
Yeah.
That game.
Hey, Al, you told me this story yourself. The Sugar Bowl is 16-0, and you wanted to run the get it play. And Tubb overruled you, and then Cadillac fumbled, and game ended up looking a lot closer than it actually was.
Yeah, again, they made that. That was an imposter. But go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
I just want you to talk about that play.
Again, I'm going to go. We mentioned it earlier. Is we have the get it play. The get it play is where you fake it and short yards, 4th and 1 usually. You fake it and the quarterback it's a slick little move. You got to work on it.
Right.
Where he'll spin, look, and put the ball behind his back and walk back. Okay. After the back goes through, the back dives through the middle, and usually there's a massive group of bodies that meet him, and the safeties and everybody bites because they know, it's going to be a run, and then some guys, one of the tight ends kind of pretends like he's going to block the corner and then creeps to the post. And when you call it your percentage, if you try it every game, it ain't going to work. But if you try it once or twice a year,
you scored a touchdown against Arkansas on that play.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, you'll get it. And the rule was this: if we went into condensed, if we went into our heavy personnel, our 23 personnel, three tight ends, two backs, and every player was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. That was the scenario. Or if the safety was deep, he was a guy that always bites hard. And by the time you made the fake, he would be within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. But the base rule was everybody had to be up, and that Virginia Tech did that. They were in perfect position to run the get it play. But you can't run that play independently. That's a play you say, Coach, I'm going to run the get it here, and he can veto it. And he should be able to veto it. That's his. I mean, that's a head coach's call more than it is a coordinator's call. It's my job to have the play, but it's his job really to make that decision.
Al, before you go, Doug, wouldn't he be fun on the Friday round table or something? I mean,
come on.
I got to tell you, Philip, I know how close y'all are, and Ronnie, but we got to wrap it up. Just a lot of people watching. Coach, you are always going to be loved by Auburn people. I mean, you gave 4 years of your life here. You showed us some great shirts, but what's cool is you're up in Michigan, and your memory and your recollection of your time at Auburn, hopefully you were treated there, and I hope you will come back. But what a treat to have you on the show. Awesome stuff.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's near and dear to my heart, and I speak of it fondly constantly. My son, you know what I did? My son is an Auburn nut. He's a nut, okay? He everything, basketball, football, he knows every player a lot better than I do. I promise. I called him and asked him. I go, "Hey son, give me a quick skim the players real quick and tell me." He goes, "Okay, well, all right. Now Singleton is number one. He is a speed guy, one of the fastest guys." He goes, "Okay, what do you have for Horatio Fields?" He goes, "Now he's real physical on the perimeter, Dad. He's big, but Coleman is the whole package. Coleman can go get it. Coleman can run the short routes and can make the phenomenal plays." Blah, blah. Now I knew the quarterback because but I didn't know all the nuance that he knew. He's watching some very, very closely. Now get him into basketball. Holy smoke, would he be a great analyst?
Well, we're going to get you back on it, guys. This has been unbelievable. The Die Hard podcast, great memories with even better people. For executive producer Brendan Martin, Jim Fife, my hero growing up on the broadcast. And our time is up. We thank you for yours. So take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip.